It's a non-way limped-in pot at 1-3 with a hero sitting on $775, very deep. And he says he's playing a 1-3 game at his local casino. Starting stack is $775. The entire table limps to him in the small blind, and he looks down at 10 of spades, 7 of clubs. And he completes in the small blind, and the big blind checks, and they go to a flop of 3 of clubs, 7 of hearts, 10 of hearts. He said with being 9-way limped in pod, he went ahead and donked for about $15 with a board being pretty wet. Middle position 1 and 2 call, and the cutoff 3 bets to $65, and it folds to the hero, and he tanks for about 2 minutes and decides to jam. Now, he's thinking that the board was super wet and coordinated, and he felt like he has the best hand in that moment, and he wanted to get the draws out, which is interesting. That's why he jammed. Folds to the villain, who had $500 in the cutoff behind, and he goes into the tank and starts talking about what a cooler it will be if he's beaten. So essentially, hero has 10 of spades, 7 of clubs, and everyone limps in 9 ways. Absolutely crazy. The flop comes 10-7-3 with 10 of hearts and 7 of hearts, and he flops top 2. The pot is $27. And the action goes, hero bets $15, which I think is relatively small. On a board like this, out of position, multi-way, I would rather go much, much larger. Personally, I'm going somewhere between $25 to $30. But hero bets $15, gets 2 callers, and now is facing a raise from the cutoff. We don't know much about this cutoff. We have to be neutral here and just base our analysis on general opponent tendencies. But the cutoff nevertheless does raise to $65, which in my mind really narrows his range down to very strong hands, typically sets or better. Now the hero is facing a decision. Should he call the $50 or should he jam for about $550? The final pot, if the jam gets called, is $11.87. It's a big pot for 1-3. Our opponent in this case has a range that contains sets like 10s, 7s, and 3s. Worse value, 10-7, 3-7, 10-3, 10x, and draws, a lot of draws, and particularly combo draws, flush draws, straight draws. The exact weight of our opponent's range is everything here. Passive players hold more sets, and aggressive players in this spot tend to hold far more draws and weaker value hands. From the pipeout perspective, precision and profits out, you always have to remember the EV is only as good as the range that you feed it into. So if we're going to try to calculate the EV of a certain line, we have to decide what it is and compare the EVs against each other. Sometimes it's very clear. One action is plus EV, the other action is negative EV, but sometimes it's not. Both actions can be plus EV, but one is clearly a much bigger winner. So in this case, the break-even jam when hero jams for all of his stack is about 46.3%. And we calculate that very easily. $550 divided by the total, $1,187, which gives them 46.3%. If our hero's equity is above 46.3%, this jam is clearly printing money. If our hero's equity is below 46.3%, this jam is always losing money in the long run. But let's see what his equity actually is. Now, 46.3% equity needed is fixed, but our hero's equity isn't. Let's look at why. There is a number of sets that are left that our opponent can have that are going to absolutely crush our hero's hand. For example, pocket 10s, pocket 7s, and 3 sets of pocket 3s. Hero's own cards here are blocking the nuts. What's unknowable is how many hard draws, combo draws, and worst two pairs and overplayed made hands he raises with. If the villain has a range that is extremely set heavy, our hero has only about 25 to 35% equity against that range, and this jam is losing an EV of ranging between $253 to $135. If our villain has a very aggressive draw heavy range, the EV of the jam can be as much as 52 to 58%, printing $67 to about $138. The math gives us the threshold. The quality of our reads always determine which side we're on. Are we on the profitable side or are we on the losing side? Does our equity allow us to jam with EV? This chart right here tells you exactly the breakdown as equity increases or decreases. As you can see, if our equity increases to about 55%, we are gaining as much as $103 every time we jam. But if our equity goes down, we can lose as much as $75 every time we play this hand, even at 40% equity, which is quite substantial. Now, we have to value our options. Which is better? Should we go for a jam, commit $550 now, which is only one decision that we can make immediately, relieve ourselves, there's no more further decisions and no more choices, or do we call and analyze on later streets and perhaps find ways to add to our EV on later streets? In this case, I prefer this option much better. As the hand has played, calling here is almost certainly the right move over jamming. Why? Because we're looking at a turn card to come and a river card to come, and we get to analyze our villain's actions, and we get to make other decisions, two more decisions. Having said that, calling here is an automatic winner. I can see some argument for jamming here against certain opponents, but not knowing any reads, not knowing any tendencies about this villain, jamming is out of question. But if I had specific reads and understanding of my opponent's tendency in this case, knowing that perhaps he calls too light, perhaps with combo draws or naked draws, I would possibly jam in this spot. But as played, probably not. If we determine our opponent to be very value heavy, we're definitely going for a call here. It's very much range dependent. If our opponent tends to be very aggressive and very draw heavy, we're going for a jam here. In spots like this, don't ask yourself questions like, is top two strong enough to stack off? Ask a better question. Ask, what range is this specific player raising here and what portion continues against my shove? And what is my equity against that range? The Pipo philosophy says the math doesn't choose your range. The quality of your read determines the inputs, and the math tells you what to do with that information. Before we go on, if you're getting value from this video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any future episodes. And if you know anyone else that loves to improve their game and loves poker as much as we do, share it with them. I'm sure you know someone that could benefit from these videos. Now, here's the reveal. Our villain, in this case, did have a set. He had pocket threes. And after tanking, he very easily determined that this was an easy call. And of course, he called. But our hero binked, which is always nice. And the hero wins $1,187. But let's evaluate the villain's decision here real quickly and see, was it an easy call as I made it out to be? Was calling with pocket threes correct? He had to call about $500 to win about $1,187. His break-even equity is 42.1%. Not bad. Hero can certainly still have higher sets, tens and sevens that crush pocket threes, but Hero also jams with 10-7 for top two, other two pair hands, and strong hard combo draws. So the higher sets like tens and sevens are terrible for pocket threes, but there's a lot of other hands in the Hero's range that are excellent for the villain. In this case, top 2, strong heart draws and combo draws. Against this broader range, bottom set could generally clear the 42.1% threshold that we need. So in this case, let's look at the final verdict. If we assume that our hero here has a normal range, well, calling prince money. Very tight jam range from our hero, it becomes a little marginal. And if we're facing a very nitty hero, well then in that case, fold is a better option. But at these 1-3 tables, that tends not to be generally the case. Verdict, I say call. It's absolutely plus EV. The villain doesn't need pocket threes to be ahead of the hero's range, clearly. Only about 42% equity against the range hero actually jams. Unless that range is extraordinarily nutted, calling bottom set is defensible. Now, what can we learn from this hand? Knowing the outcome of the hand, we should not really judge the flop shove. The villain happened to have pocket threes, and the hero hit a 7. All of which is information that our hero did not have. Let's not judge the shove against the hand villain happened to have. Let's judge it against the range that the villain could reasonably have when he raises. Winning the pot doesn't make a negative EV decision a good one, and losing the pot doesn't make a plus EV decision a bad decision. Evaluating the process using the information available at the moment of the decision is the only thing that matters. Good results, they don't always mean a good decision. Winning the hand doesn't prove that the shove was correct. Losing wouldn't prove that it was wrong. EV is determined when the decision was made and not afterwards. And that is right from my course, the Delusion Killer Masterclass, Module 1, Section 2, Lesson 1. And if you want to check it out for yourself, go to vintonpoker.com/course. So what's the big takeaway from this hand? Well, a lot of things. Not only you need to have a repeatable thought process, but mainly I want to show you that 1-3 and low limit games live are still incredibly profitable in today's day and age of poker, given all the information and solver information that is available to us. The field is still incredibly soft and it's ripe for the picking. In these lower limit games, you'll often find very same dynamic that happened in this hand. Very loose and passive players building multi-way pots that are absolutely huge. Look at this hand. It was $1,187. And they make terrible mistakes post-flop that you, the more experienced players, disciplined players, players that are studying and getting coaching and improving your game, you can exploit daily to make a great win rate for yourself in the long run. Now, let's take a look at some typical mistakes that happen in these games and how we can exploit them. Where does the money come from? Well, these opponents tend to either limp too much, call too much, fold too much, bluff way too little, or pay bad prices for chasing draws. And if they limp too much, you just isolate and go for value a lot more. If they're calling too much, you value bet much bigger. If they are folding too much, you apply more and more pressure any chance you get. If they're not bluffing enough, well, then you make big folds. You know, these players tend to underbluff. Massive folds are in order. And if they chase draws that are given bad prices, you continue to give them bad and worse prices all throughout every session. Remember this. A soft game is only profitable if you aren't making the same mistakes as the players you're trying to beat. Multi-way is volatile. 9-way limp pots signal a good game and create complicated spots. You still need discipline, value sizing, hand reading, and uncomfortable folds. Rake matters more in these games. Don't fight competent regs for tiny theoretical edges. The money is in opponents making large, repeatable mistakes. Poker is in debt, ladies and gentlemen. Unexploited mistakes are printing money at the live tables this day and age, which brings me to this. If you want to improve your game, if you want to get better at these games, You need a repeatable thought process that analyzes all the aspects that we talked about today and much, much more in a very efficient and effective way. And this is exactly what I work on with my clients with in my coaching sessions and in my course, the Delusion Killer Masterclass. And if you want to know if it works for you, I invite you to take advantage of the free coaching session that I offer my clients. In these coaching sessions, we're going to go over your game. We're going to go over a sample of 1 or 2 hands that you can bring to the session yourself. And we'll analyze the hand together and we'll find out what is the biggest leak or leaks in your game right now that you can easily plug to improve your game right after that session. And after that, I will give you a clear path and framework to how to get your game from where you are to where you want to be in as effective and efficient and timely way as possible. If you want to find out how just one coaching session can improve your game dramatically and increase your win rate, click the link below or go to vintonpoker.com/apply or simply scan the QR code on the screen as you see. I'm looking forward to meeting you and I'm looking forward to improving your game together. So in this hand with 10-7 offsuit, facing a raise on the flop of 10-7-3, would you jam or would you just call? Leave your comments below and tell me which action you would take and why. I read every single one of them. And if you want to keep improving and keep crushing, watch this next video. Until next time, I'm your friend Vinton. GG.